Hi guys, it's me again, Lizelle. And the answer to the two questions is a big no. So it is not bad to memorize for a test, and it is also not bad to study for scores and grade. So, however, we should go beyond memorizing for tests, and we should not study only for a passing score and a passing grade. So, mo go beyond ka sa pag-memorize. So, dapat i-understand nimo kung unsa ang imong gi-memorize. Not just pure memorization. So, our group will report all about assessment in the constructivist technology supported learning. So first, we have here the definition, a brief definition of assessment. So assessment is an ongoing process aimed at understanding and improving student learning. So there are two types of assessment which we tackle in PROED 11. Okay, baw na taani. So traditional assessment and authentic assessment. So constructivists, they believe that people construct their own understanding and improving student learning. So siguro through experiences, learning through their experiences and reflecting in their experience. So next, in a constructivist classroom, learning transcends memorization of facts. So, mo niya akong giingan ganina na transcends memorization of facts, mo go beyond ka sa memorization, not just pure memorization. So, dapat you understand what you memorize, dapat naka-learn ka ana, and you know what you understand, you learn from it, and ma-apply sa na nimo. So it's not all about pure memorization. So it is putting these isolated facts together, form concepts, and make meaning out of them. So it is connecting the integration of these facts and concepts to daily life. It is seeing the relevance of these facts and concepts to what we value and treasure in life. So if this is what learning is from the eyes of constructivists, then definitely the pure memorization done for a mere recall does not jive with such belief. So, dapat should i-understand nimo ang meaning. Dapat naka-learn ka na kay mo ba yan ay purpose why we study is to learn. So, next is, what then is the assessment practice that will be congruent with the constructivist thinking? So, unsa ka ang appropriate for a constructivist classroom? So, we have here the most appropriate is the authentic assessment. So, authentic assessment measures collective abilities, written and oral expression skills, analytical skills, manipulative skills, integration, creativity, and ability to work collaboratively. So, students perform real-world tasks, thus the word authentic. So, it is an assessment of a process or a product. And the performance is a reliable measure of skills learned. So, product is a proof of acquisition of skills. So, kanida yung authentic assessment more on process or a product. So, lahi siya sa traditional one nga pen and pencil paper test nga kanang like multiple choice, may ano. So, it's the opposite one. So, we have here, para ma-assess nato, ma-evaluate nato ang performance, so we use a scoring rubric. So, we have here an example of a scoring rubric sa a multimedia project and a performance rubric. So, kanis siya, pwede ni siya buhaton sa with a teacher and a student. So, you and your students may develop a rubric. It can be a collaborative effort for both of you, teacher and students, in line with the practice of self-assessment. So, in fact, with scoring rubrics, standards are clearly set at the beginning for you and your students, and with the rubric, your students can assess their own performance or product. So, the next one is assessment in a technology supported environment necessarily includes display of skillful and creative use of technologies, old and recent, because that is what is naturally expected of us in the real world, a technology-dominated world. So, dapat karong panahon na makantigot ta, no, mugamit og technology, kailangan kuan na kay ta ka ng um, kuan na kay ta ka lang computer literate, no, sa sakto nga term. So, yung tanaw pa dyan ko sa libro, kaya ron kay pa ko sa sakto nga term, kay dapat computer literate ta, no, kung makaibaw ta unsaon paghimog PowerPoint, so aware ta ana, and how labi na karon nga online class, so dapat aware ta pas karon nag-report ta paghimog PowerPoint, pag-edit kung unsay dapat nga gamiton nga maayo for editing. So usap pod na, so dapat computer literate ta para dili ta helpless, no, di ta mawa sa kuan sa labi na karon. So next is a technology supported classroom maximizes the use of old and new technology. So students are expected to demonstrate learning with the use of both old and new technology. So sa una napatay katong overhead projector, and karon na natay PowerPoint presentation. So pwede gyapon na nila gamiton kung asa sila unsa ilang gusto. So dapat i-maximize the use of old and new technology. So kani sila class, ma-assess lang nimo sila through authentic assessment. So kay kuan man guni siya kanang performance-based assessment or product assessment ni siya. So dili nimo siya pwede na magpa-test kag multiple choice. So dili no katong traditional one. So kuan dyan siya authentic assessment jud ang gamiton para to assess and to evaluate the performance of your students. So from the eyes of a constructivist, learning is an active, constructive, intentional, authentic, and cooperative process. So should the ways in which we assess learners and the criteria that we use to evaluate them. So, how do we assess if our students have learned the constructivist way of thinking, behaving, and living? So, unsa man gyud ang unsaon man nato pag-assess sa atong students? So, we will use a rubric for understanding and improving meaningful learning environment. So, kani siya makatabang ni siya to assess our students kung unsa ilahang nakatunan. Labi na sa constructivist classroom. So, for the next topic, all about rubric for understanding and improving meaningful learning environment, it will be reported by Miss Edong. So that's it for my report.
Good day, Sir Ram. Good day, classmates. I'm Erlyn Idong, and I'm the second reporter of Chapter 11. And my topic is about rubric for understanding and improving meaningful learning environment. So, kaning rubric or dili ni katong games ha, o katong duaan nga rubrics, katong na mga color. So kani more rubric, kani guide, serve as an guide sa teacher kung saon pag grade or assess sa learning sa bata or kanang kuan o assess sa learning sa bata. So, how do we assess if our student have learned the constructivist way of thinking, behaving, and living? We have here the strategic planning infographics. So, learner interaction with real-world objects, observation and reflection, learner interactions, tool use. So, first, learner interaction with real-world objects. Little of the learner's time is spent engaged with tools and objects found outside school. Learners are often engaged in activities involving tools and object found outside school. So, dinhe, murag na-emphasize ang learners nga engage outside school. So, kumingon tag real world, it means nga ang na-learn o unsa ang skills o ang nakatunan sa bata inside sa classroom, ilahang i-apply o kanang i-application nila ngadto sa outside sa classroom. It means sa society or sa ilahang community. So, murag ma-benefits pod ang community sa ilahang nakatunan. Observation and reflection. Students rarely think about or record the result of actions taken during activities. Students often stop and think about the activities in which they are engaged. Students share frequent observation about their activity with peer and interested adults. Kini murag kanang always kay di ba ang student o ang young minds or kuan mas kung naa sila observation mas i-share nila mostly sa interested adults or kanang mga adults kay ngano mas daghan og idea nga i-share ang adults dyan. Apoy mga student pod nga ang ilahang observation ila pong i-share within the peers kay it means nga makagathered sila og more ideas dili ra kay sa kanang imorang sa personal ra sa bata. So, dinhi pod sa student rarely think about or record the result of action. Mura bitaw ni di ba? Murag ang student bitaw o ako ni agi man po kog kanang student before high school butang nato okay ra ko na di na ko mag-record unsa tong results nga sang activities as long as nadanto na ho di ba murag inana ang common sa mga student. So yan ang mana learner interactions. Students manipulate none of the variables or controls in environment. Students manipulate some variables and controls in environment. Students manipulate all or nearly all variables, controls in environment. So, nag-matter sila or nag-differential lang sila din o manipulate none, manipulate some variables, o manipulate all or nearly all. So, variables. So, unsa man day example, unsa man dining variable. So, kanang I will example ani kani hang gi-prepared nga the factors that teachers should consider in meeting the individual needs of student include prior knowledge, language, and cultural background. So, ang variables ni, example, ang prior knowledge, ang language o cultural background. So, kung prior knowledge, di ba, usa ta or before we enter in the classroom, na natay prior knowledge na ma-additionalan na lang na within kung mag-learning na ta inside sa classroom. Ang language or cultural background, example, na may usa ka student, usa ka bata nga excellent siya sa pagsulti og English, napoy bata nga low pud siya o di siya pud ka speech kaadyo og English. So, mo ni variables kanang ang teacher expect kung saan pag-learn mag-expected kamaom expected og unsaon kamao lagi mo learn ang usa ka bata. So kanang naay based on the variables nga makita o ma-observe. Tools use. Students use no cognitive tools. Students use some cognitive tools to support exploration, manipulations. Students use nearly all cognitive tools effectively. So, dinhi po tool use. So, cognitive tools. So, unsa may kanang hunahunaan na to ani. So, ang example ani, kani bitang spreadsheet, kanang sa Excel, database, kanang system programming, expert system, kanang na-related sa technology. So like kanang sa karon nato kanang nag-use man ta o explore ta using technology like we use multimedia is one of the example also. So we are using now video conferencing is also an example. So recording. So in ani mo ni si Jay tool use. So kaning kuan murag mo ni kanang common karon na nagamit sa kanang karon nga high tech o technology era kani siya kaning mga education or technology nga i-relate sa education or gamiton to learn sa education. Assessing construction. Dissonance. Puzzling or kaning dissonance kanang dili bitaw harmony puzzling, so meaning puzzled ka nay puzzled. Constructing mental models and making meaning. Dissonance or puzzling. Students engage in learning activities because activities are required rather than being an intrinsic interest. So buhaton sa bata ang activities kay required man kanang dili kay sa iyang own iyang intrinsic interest. Learner frequently seem to be operating based on a sincere curiosity about the topic of study. Learners are consistently striving to resolve disparity between observed and unsincere desire to know. So striving to make more effort to resolve disparity kanang ang iyahang difference between observed and sincere desire to know. So, constructing mental models and making meaning. Learners rarely create their own understanding of how things work. Learners are often expected to make sense of new experiences and develop theories. Learners routinely wrestle with new experiences and becoming expert at identifying and solving problems. So, wrestle kanang mag-struggle sa iyang experience nga kanang ihang mag-becoming expert or i-identify or i-solve ang problem, especially kung dili kaayo bitaw utukan o dili kanang bright ang bata, struggle bija na nato nga mo-solve og problem solvings kanang malagit kanang identifying sa mga errors o lisod Mag-struggling ang learners. Assessing cooperation. Interaction among learners. Interaction with people outside of school, social negotiation, acceptance and distribution of rules and responsibility. So, interaction among learners. Little of these learners' time is spent gainfully engaged with other students. Learners are often immersed in activities in which collaboration with peers results in success. So, excuse me. Ang learners ko no, murag engage sa nang naas dili ra siya usa naa siya kanang naa siya kauban. So, with other student, example o ganina, peer results. So, di ba na mga bata nga kanang mas ganahan sila kung naa sila ay group or mag-group study sila kay ma-collaboration ilahang mga ideas para ang ilahang kuan makakuha sila successful sa ilahang project o groups kanang ilahang examination. So, nay na nga bata. Napoy bata nga murag gana na po siya og si jarang usa magkanang learn o mag-study. So, kuan dinhe interaction among learners so kanang with other learners or other students. Interaction with people outside of school. Little of the learner's time is spent gainfully engaged with experts outside of school. Learners are often involved in activities in which there is significant learning outside of school. So, gihapon kanang outside sa classroom. So, it means sa society or sa community. Ang learner's time is spent gainfully engaged with expert outside of school. So, kanang na ay mag-spend o ilahang ikuan ng ilahang time ngadto sa society sa community based on their kanang significance based sa ilahang learn sa kanang classroom. Social negotiation. There is little evidence that learners work together to develop shared understanding of tasks or of solution strategies. Learners are often observed in the process of coming to agreement on the nature of problems and on best courses of action. Learners collaborate with ease. In negotiation became almost invisible, yet the ideas of all team members are valued. So, nice socialization or social. So, like learners work together to develop. So, dilira usa ka bata o ang nay bata nga mo-develop siya kung together o nas makagain siya o ma-learn siya fast kung naay kauban o naay kanang team members o na lagi are valued. So, acceptance and distribution of rules and responsibility. So we have here rules and responsibilities are shifted infrequently. Most capable learners accept more responsibility than the less capable. So kanang understandable di ba kay mo ni mahitabo ang capable o kanang pan nga student mo accept jud sila og responsibilities unlike kung itong butang na to i-term lang na to nga di kayo ba kanang kasaligan o dili kayo bright, so murag mahadlok pud sila mo dawat og responsibilities. Roles and responsibility are shifted often, and such changes are accepted by both the most and least capable. Students make their own decisions concerning roles and responsibilities, freely giving and accepting assistance as necessary. So, students makes their own decision concerning roles. So, naapoy at makanya-kanyang opinion, mag-make pod sila ilahang magbuot-buot pod na pod sila para sa ilahang concerning sa ilang rules and responsibility na kanang with assistance if and accepting assistance as necessary. So this will be the end of my report, and thank you for listening. The next to be report is Miss Nako. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Erica Janine Naku and I'm the last reporter of Group 11. So our topic is all about assessment in a constructivist technology-supported learning. So ang last topic nga gi-discuss ni Ms. Edong is katong assessing cooperation using rubrics for understanding and improving meaningful learning environment. So let's start. One of the rubrics for understanding and improving the learning and improving meaningful learning environment is assessing authenticity. Assessing authenticity or authentic assessment. So in evaluating the student learning goals, authentic assessment is more appropriate. And then, it is more appropriate for constructivist classroom. Constructivist classroom means that the teacher will transform the students from being a passive recipient of information to an active participant of the learning process. So in assessing authenticity, there are 4 characteristics. First is complexity, high-order thinking, recognizing problems, and right answers. Complexity. So the task learners face have been designed for schools that is separated into subjects and develops to simplify learning. So authentic assessment, it is designed to resemble complex real-world tasks and activities. So it is not just a subject, but it requires the students to do the subject or perform the subject. The task learners face are embedded in a theme-based units that cross disciplines and present issues in context. So theme-based learning is so much fun for the children. They are learning about the topics that are meaningful and relevant to their own lives. So this creates what is known as intrinsic motivation. In other words, the children learn because they want to learn, not because they have to learn. Students accept challenges as they exist in real world using the languages, math, science, and technologies to accomplish important tasks. Next is high-order thinking. A large percentage of what is expected is memorization, so students are rarely asked to evaluate, synthesize, or create. So authentic assessment focuses in the ability of the student to apply learning, not just to memorize information or take tests. Actually, it's okay to memorize as long as nasabtan nimo kung unsa ang imong gi-memorize. So this assessment must challenge your students to create and solve the problems. Also, let your students' imagination create this assessment. Students are often asked to develop ideas and solutions, often in groups, and demonstrate the abilities to create and reason. So, it can be structured as written or oral assessment that is completed or assessment can be completed individually or in pairs or in groups. Learners routinely generate hypotheses, conduct investigations, assess results, and make predictions. Third is recognizing problems. Students are expected to be problem finders, but are instead expected to be able to solve occasional well-structured problems. So, for example is kana mga problem na simple mathematic problems like 2 plus 2, 3 plus 1, mga 1 times 1. Muna siya mga well-structured problems, no? Kana mga simple lang and easy to answer for them. Students occasionally face ill-structured challenges and are expected to refine problem as well as solve it. So, for example, here is kanang solving an arithmetic problem. Solving arithmetic problem, it requires using specific math procedures correctly so that the right solution could be found. Ill-structured problems can train the students to analyze and evaluate the problem solving through examples. Students frequently face ill-structured challenges and develop proficiency in identifying and defining problems. So, for example, in science, when Galileo recognized the problem of needing to know the speed of light, but then he did not come up with a solution. So it took advances in mathematics and science to solve the measurement of the problem. But yet, Galileo still received credit for finding the problem. Right answers. So the problems presented to learners tend to have right answers. The problems presented to the learners tend to have right answers, correct solution that the students are expected to eventually reach. The problems presented are new to the learners and generally involve complex solutions of varying quality rather than right answer. So, authentic assessment is often presented as ill-structured problems with no right answer. So, assessing intentionality. So, in assessing intentionality, there are 6 characteristics. So, first is goal-directedness, setting own goals, regulating own learning, learning how to learn, articulation of goals as focus of activity, and technology use in support of learning goals. Goal-directedness. So you must have goal-directedness in attaining specified goals. There are 2 types of learners, and then you adjust your instruction, no, based on the different learning needs of the students. Moto siya ang learners that are often pursuing activities that have little to do with the attainment of specified goals, or mo ni sila ang mga students nga mga katungkuan passive recipient of information. And the learners are generally engaged in activities that contribute to the attainment of specified goals, or these are the learners who are active participants in the learning process. Next is setting own goals. So, in using rubrics now, you must set your goals now. You must set your goals if what do you want to achieve for your learners. You write goals based on your knowledge of the student's need. So the learning goals are provided by the educators. Of course, ang teachers, sila ang mag-set og learning goals for the students. Learners are sometimes involved in the establishment of learning goals. You regularly reflect your assessment to determine if you have met your goal. So the learner and the teachers need to collaborate in setting own goals or to establish the learning goals. Learners are routinely responsible for developing goals. Regulating own learning. So the learner's progress is monitored by others. So it is monitored by the teacher using rubrics. So using rubrics, di ba, makita man nimo dito if the students if kanang students is doing well in class, or kanang if he or she participated in class. Learners are involved as partners in monitoring and reporting progress toward goals. So, yes, mo gyapon, di ba, in regulating own learning, the teacher and the learners need to collaborate. Because, di ba, ang teacher, i-evaluate man niya ang mga estudyante. And then, they will give feedback based sa performance estudyante sa klase. Learners are responsible for monitoring and reporting progress toward goals. So they are responsible in monitoring and reporting their progress toward goals. So, learning how to learn. Little emphasis is placed on metacognition. So there are few opportunities to discuss the learning process with peers or educators. Then the culture of the learning environment promotes frequent discussion of the processes and strategies. Either it is both successful or unsuccessful in the learning. So in learning how to learn, you must see yourself as a lifelong learner. Articulation of goals as focus of activity. There are two types now of learners. There are learners nga don't see the relationship between the activities in which they are engaged and specified learning goals. And also there are learners that describe the activities in which they are engaged in terms that is relatedly direct to the specified learning goals. Technology used in support of learning goals. So the technology used here is they are using rubrics as a tool of e-learning in assessing the students. in assessing the students' needs. So yes, they use technology seems unrelated to the specified learning, but then the use of technology contributes to the attainment of specified learning goals. So the technology or the use of rubrics, as a tool, it will help you to achieve the specified learning goals. And lastly, the use of technology makes a powerful contribution to the attainment of specified learning goals. Summing up, the traditional paper and pencil tests are not adequate to assess learning in a constructivist technology-supported learning. The authentic forms of assessment, such as performance and product assessment, are more reliable and adequate to measure the students' communications, analytical, integrative, evaluative, and collaborative skills. In a technology-supported learning environment, the students are not only users of technology product. They themselves are authors of technology products. So the scoring rubrics are, therefore, a must in assessment. So in a constructivist classroom, you must use authentic assessment. It is more appropriate rather than katong traditional paper and pencil test, because in authentic assessment, it resembles mga complex mga real world tasks or activities. Okay, so that's all. Thank you everyone, and thank you for listening. If you have kanang mga comments or if you have questions or thoughts about some topic or namo ikadugang, just please comment down below. So thank you and have a nice day.